We talk about blitz rate from 14% last week to 30+% this week. Why do you think that happened today?
Well, they blitz Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles on first and second down multiple times to add to the run blitz pressure, to be able to keep Stevenson and Gibson in the backfield and try to penetrate and make tackles back there. They ran a few safety blitzes, bringing Jair Brown up off the edge to really force the issue. And that's the corrections that they made today. They just forced the pressure with linebackers and safeties playing downhill to force them to run the football.
They didn't seem to be overly concerned with New England's downfield pass game, particularly talking about their wide receivers. So to me, it seemed like they were willing to take the chances of blitzing and blitzing heavier than they have in previous games because they weren't worried about Brissett and those wide receivers cooking them going down the field and cooking them on the edges. So it worked out for them. It was a regular season game, but it was almost a tune-up game that the Niners desperately needed.
And we're going to keep tabs on Fred Warner's injury on that ankle. But before we do that, let's give you the right decision, brought to you by Bernardi Zurada, the official attorneys of the 49ers. This guy, 27 tackles so far, 17 of them solo, 2 interceptions, one of them a pick six today against the Pats. He's got a sack, 3 forced fumbles, 4 passes defended, a 45-yard interception return today. What can't this man do, Rod?
He can do everything. So the answer to that question is nothing. I want to point out something. On the pregame show, we showed Fred Warner gathering the team around, and he was giving them that fire and brimstone. It's one thing for a guy to do that and then come out and don't play well. Because, D, you know, there are a lot of guys who do a lot of talking, who do a lot of jaw jacking, and then they come out and they play and they go flat, like garbage.
Yeah.
Fred basically told those guys, we need to step it up, y'all need to follow me, and then he led by example. That's what makes him, one of the things that makes him so valuable to this team.
There's names like T.J. Watt and Myles Garrett and Sauce Gardner and Max Crosby and so on and so forth. And this is Dave Lombardi on X. Fred Warner just gave the 49ers a fiery speech before uniforms even came on. That's before the game. I haven't seen that from him before. So going back to the question I asked Matt, Dante, there's a lot of names out there. Is him the guy who should be leading the race for Defensive Player of the Year as of this moment?
Absolutely. Fred Warner is him.
Yeah.
He's the ultimate playmaker for the 49ers, all levels of the defense. We've seen on command this year how he activates the peanut punch. He's forced 5 turnovers this year. He has one interception for a touchdown. He has 4 pass breakups. We've seen him cover wide receivers. We've seen him get after the quarterback on the blitz. Fred Warner right now is the leading candidate for Defensive Player of the Year.
And I'm pretty sure this number has gone down, but we told you earlier that his passer rating against, quarterback's passer rating against Fred Warner in coverage was about 14.9. I'm sure that number has gone down. But here's another example of how valuable Fred Warner is. When he went out, with that ankle injury, what did the New England Patriots do immediately? Ran to the middle of the field.
Yep, absolutely.
Ran right where Fred Warner would be, ran at those other Niner linebackers. They exploited that as quickly as they could because they knew the best defensive player in football wasn't there. This is an opportunity for us to exploit that gap.
And speaking of Defensive Player of the Year, the Niners have one in their roster. He won this award a couple of years ago. Today, Malik Collins was absolutely lights out. Same with Kevin Givens filling in for Javon Hargrave. But I want to focus on number 97, Dante. 5 tackles, 4 solo tackles, 1 sack. I haven't seen this kind of dominant performance, granted, against a bad Patriot team. But I haven't seen this Nick Bosa, and perhaps since last season or even going back to his DPOY season, being dominant all over the place.
And it was critical. That fourth quarter, he dominated. He was unblockable. They went to some of the pass pressure stunts that we talked about in the pregame with the Nick Bosa up and under coming tight in the A-gap. And when he finally got to Jacoby Brissett, he was able to get the trifecta. The sack, forced fumble, fumble recovery. But give a shout out to the rest of those guys on there. Evan Anderson, Sam Okawanu, right? Number 91.
Yes.
Kevin Givens.
Jordan Elliott.
Kevin Givens with 2.5 sacks. Jordan Elliott, before he went out with the injury, he was clogging up the run gaps. He was getting after it in the pass rush. And then Malik Collins, he was violent on a lot of those pass rush snaps, wasn't he? So if they can continue to play like this, get better with that continuity, the sky's the limit.
Javon Hargrave, before he got hurt, was leading all defensive tackles in the NFL in pressures. It's going to take a group of guys to approximate or give you what you were getting from Javon Hargrave. Today was a nice step in that direction.
Let's look at the the offense or lack thereof of the Pats in the first half because, again, the defense was absolutely unpenetrable today for the 49ers. They forced a fumble. Before that, a punt. Then an interception for touchdown by Fred Warner. Down on downs, or turnover on downs, a punt and a field goal that was a 63-yard field goal.
It was probably good from 68.
Yeah, because he had plenty of leg for that. So, again, we know it's a bad, limited Patriots team, but any given Sunday, anyone can beat you like this week and prove. The Broncos just beat the Jets in this week. So what does that first half, what did it reveal to you, Dante, from the defense?
It shows you that when the 49ers are locked in on defense, when they're locked in mentally, when they're communicating at a high level, when they're playing violently on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage, they can accomplish anything they want on the defensive side of the ball. And let's not forget that Fred Warner was the one that got that stop on 4th and 1.
Yep.
So the interception, the turnover on downs, which we view as a turnover, it was all Fred Warner, and it was just a group effort from everybody involved.
But I want to go back to something that Matt said, because he's absolutely right. Coaches love this. You can teach off of a win.
Yep.
There are things that the Niners still need to clean up, and I know you in particular. They're still having problems dealing with that bunch, aren't they?
Absolutely. 3rd down, they're still locking the bunch. They're still running away from leverage. All you have to do is go in and out, lock the point, and then they'll be able to get off the field on 3rd down.
I wish people could see what we see watching the game with Dante, because he is jumping out of his skin when they do things.
You know what?
Like not be able to guard that bunch formation.
I want to take the liberty to tell our producer, Nick Lyons, for next week against the Cardinals. We should have a camera. Let's have a camera in the green room and have a behind-the-scenes segment with Dante Whitner jumping up and down and just coaching himself in the back room. When we come back here on 49ers Postgame Live, brought to you by Toyota, we talk about QB1, number 13, Brock Purdy, plus hear from head coach Kyle Shanahan.
49ers Postgame Live is presented.
Our whiskey, the QB comparison today between Jacoby Brissett and Brock Purdy. Brock went 15 for 27. A low 55.6% completion rate for him. That's low for Brock, really low. He's on the high 60s. That's where he lives. Yards per attempt, 10.7. We saw him push the ball downfield today like he hasn't done this season, Rob.
Yeah, it was fun to watch at times. At other times, it's like, oh, slow down, bro. Let's turn around and hand the ball off to Jordan Mason. But, yeah, it's clear that the Niners offensively wanted to go at that secondary of the Patriots. And 10.7 yards per attempt. I mean, 10, anywhere you get close to 10 is good. When you get over 10, you're really cooking with gas. I think he was at 9.5, 9.6 last week. So, I mean, once again, it's proven. The offense is the leader of this team. And to once again cook without Christian McCaffrey, although you can see that they really needed him in the red zone, and that's been an ongoing issue this season. But to get past that, even though it's a big deal, this is an offense that they go up and down the field at will.
We asked the question on Pregame Live, should Jauan Jennings be the #1 target for Brock Purdy? You said yes, you said no. Well, the game itself spoke to us, and so far it's yes. 6 targets, more than anyone. 3 receptions, same as Debo, 1 less or fewer than George Kittle. He led the team again in reception or receiving yards. No touchdowns, but when everything is complicated, Dante, he looks at that 6'3" product out of Tennessee with the 15 on it, and he just slings it.
He does, and they have a great connection right now. And it's almost like Jauan Jennings, the harder the catch, the easier he makes it look. Last week going over a defensive back, coming down with the ball. Today doing a similar thing. And he probably would have scored if he didn't trip over the defender. When you think about Jauan Jennings and just all the playmakers from the 49ers, it was all started with the play-action toss to Debo Samuel and Jordan Mason. Then they went RPO, play-action game, getting Brandon Ayuk, right? And then he was able to sit in the pocket and get the ball to Jennings. And then on 1st and 10, they started taking shots. Remember the 50-yard completion to Debo Samuel? That was man coverage. They're loading the box with Jordan Mason. And then he took another shot on 1st and 10 to Connolly. That was incomplete. And then he took another shot to Jennings on 1st and 10. So Kyle Shanahan is dialing up the deep balls, which Brock Purdy is throwing beautifully right now on 1st and 10.
Christian Gonzalez had some pretty sticky coverage on Brandon Ayuk. So I think that had a lot to do with today. But I just say Jennings is is the #1 option for Purdy right now, just simply because he and Purdy, Jennings and Purdy, are on the same page. Ayuk is getting there, but he's just not there with Brock Purdy. Eventually that will happen, and then the natural order of things with Ayuk being the #1 guy and then everything flowing from that, it'll get back to that point.
Before we go to the next thing that you cannot miss, let me ask you both a quick one. How does Ricky Pearsall fit into all this?
He fits beautifully. It's another weapon that you can't double or you can't lock in on. And until teams start to see what he can do and how Kyle Shanahan wants to use him, you better believe that he's going to be running around with a lot of space out there.
It'll be interesting to see if he can bring something to the red zone, because that's where the Niners have been.
That's a great
deficient.
point. That's
if you could get it, he's not going to give you Christian McCaffrey, because he's not Christian McCaffrey. But if you could get another guy in there who can help you out in the red zone, that's going to be quite beneficial to the Niners.
That's a great point. Now, a Polaroid, a moment in any sport, has different things that need to happen for it to become just immortal. The relevance, the moment, plasticity, everything. This catch right here, I'm not saying it's the catch that is one of a kind, but if you go by just this picture from SF Gate on X, this is one of the best pictures I've seen because of who did it, how he did it, Rod. This is unreal.
Well, and it was a big play. That was a big touchdown at that time in the game. I just want to point out that is a run-blocking tight end making that catch.
That's a picture, by the way, by Ezra Shaw from SF Gate. Absolutely a classic, Dante.
Absolutely. He went up over 3 defenders. Brock Purdy and George Kittle have a connection where he trusts George Kittle to go up and make that catch. And it's tough to go up with the hand-eye coordination, tuck the ball down, get both feet down inbounds. Kittle does it again.
We've seen Kittle do, I always remember, go back to that Jimmy G play 4th and 2nd against the Saints a couple of years ago, and back in 19, when he just powered through everyone and dragged people along the line. This is, to me, this shows a guy who is still at the top of his game, Dante, above 30 years old, but able to go over 3 guys, have the concentration to pick up that football and land in bounds to score a touchdown. What
he understands.
Yeah.
He understands the game of football. He understands leverage. He understands the open spots. He understands that him and Brock Purdy have that type of trust. So the way that he contorted his body, went up and plucked it with his hands, there's a lot of tight ends that would have waited in the corner for that ball to come down, and one of the defensive backs could have possibly made a play on there. It just shows you the greatness of George Kittle. It's like, Coach, what do you want me to do? You want me to go deep? You want me to go intermediate? You want me to stay in and block? You want me to run a jet sweep? I'll do whatever you ask me to do, and he's going to do it to the best of his ability.
That was the Niners' 3rd drive of the game. They were 0 for 2 in the red zone prior to that, and I just want to point out again that that is a run-blocking tight end who made that catch. We're not talking about a wide receiver. We're not talking about, a glorified wide receiver who's called a tight end. That was a run-blocking tight end who made that crucial catch for the Niners to get them off of the snide in the red zone.
If Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase or Amon-Ra St. Brown make that catch, or A.J. Brown, people lose their minds.
If Brandon Ayuk makes that catch,
yeah,
if Jawan Jennings makes that catch, if Christian McCaffrey makes that catch, that is a 10-year veteran run-blocking tight end who did that.
That is the people's tight end making that catch. Back out to Levi Stadium, we got reaction right now from the head coach, Kyle Shanahan.
With Briscoe and Eves, pretty good way to wrap up your weekend if you ask me, but I'm Eves, so I'm biased.
Well, I'm Briscoe, and I'm also biased. I'll take 5 more of those.
Seriously.
How many lead changes? How many times did they go back and forth in that close of a game? Let's go. The Sun take that Game 1 win on the road in Minnesota. They are 2-2 in best-of-5 series when winning the first game. They did, however, lose in 4 games in the same round last season after they beat the Liberty in the opener. This win, of course, puts Connecticut 1 step closer to making the WNBA Finals. They've made 6 straight semis, but they've only made the finals twice in that span. They are 1 and 3 franchises actually to never raise a banner in the WNBA. Leading the way, Alyssa Thomas. You're going to hear from her in a second. She's the distributor. She added 9 assists tonight. That gives her 35 so far this postseason. That is the most assists for the player's first 3 games of a postseason in WNBA history.
Well, what a setup for Alyssa Thomas to join us here on SportsCenter. One of 4 players in double digits for that Sun victory. What was the key to the matchup here, Alyssa, especially from a defensive standpoint? You guys held them to just 8 points in that 4th quarter.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the defense. They were playing amazing. Fee's been playing amazing in the first round. And for us, it really came down to getting stops and executing on the offensive end down the stretch.
You just heard the stat we just gave, about 35 assists for you through the first 3 games of the playoffs. But how about this? You were 1 assist shy of a triple-double tonight, 17, 10, and 9. How much responsibility are you putting on yourself to miss everything for your team right now?
Yeah, I'm one of the leaders of this team. I've been here my whole career, and you know, nothing changes. We're in the pursuit of a championship, and when you start on the road like this, game 1 is important, especially on the road, and it started with me today.
Well, I got to ask about your last bucket of the game. I mean, defense on both sides was kind of tight there towards the end. Looked like the play was falling apart, and all of a sudden you knocked down a big jumper. Take us through those final seconds of that particular play.
Yeah, I mean, we really didn't have a play. More so, we're kind of chaotic, and you know, I just liked the matchup that I had on me. I just scored the previous possession, and you know, when I saw my opening, I took the shot.
All right, so it's a best-of-5 series. You take game 1, but you do it on the road. You've been around basketball for a long time, obviously. Give us an indication of value from a player's perspective of going on the road to get that W for the first win in the series.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. We always talk about you need to at least get 1, and game 1 is the most important. You know, after game 2, you get to go home and have 2 on your home court. So getting 1 is important. You would like to get 2, but can't always be stingy. So getting that first one is really important for us.
Well, you can't get 2 if you don't get the first one. So game 1 is in the books on the Sun side. We'll see what happens in game 2. Alyssa Thomas joining us here on SportsCenter. Appreciate the time.
Thank you so much.
From Melissa to Andrea Carter, who's back with us. This game went back and forth more than a dozen times throughout the course of the game, and the Lynx had a chance to tie it there at the end with that 3. What did you see as that play unfolded?
Well, Alyssa Thomas said you can't always be stingy in regards to the series, but let me tell you, this Connecticut Sun defense is always stingy. That is what they are known for. They are the stingiest defense. And on this play, they're stingy, taking away every opportunity from Minnesota. They know they're looking for a 3. Look at DeWanna Bonner. High hands. She switched on to Napheesa Collier to use her length. They deny. They're physical. They're aggressive. They stay with you defensively, and that is exactly what they did. They did it all night long, but to do it on this possession when they absolutely needed it, it was easy for them because that's what they always do. They hang their hat on their defense. They did it all night, but especially in that moment, it won them the game.
It wasn't just that moment. It was also the quarter, too. They held them to just 8 points.
Yes.
When you look at this win as a whole, when you factor in the other 3 quarters as well, what is something else that you take away?
Well, we have to start with who you just interviewed in Alyssa Thomas, because she really is the engine. That has been her nickname for this team. Things start and finish with the play of Alyssa Thomas, and she is a triple-double machine. When you talk about leading the league by a long shot in playoff triple-doubles, Alyssa Thomas gets it done. She can shoot the basketball in that mid-range. She has perfected that little one-arm shot. Mind you, she's playing with 2 torn labrums, so we have to keep that as a factor.
Ouch.
But the way she finds her teammates, her toughness on defense, she can guard multiple positions. With Alyssa Thomas, she is so dynamic, so strong, and so skilled, and she never gets tired. But a second key when it comes to this win, there have been games for Connecticut where Alyssa Thomas almost has a triple-double. DeWanna Bonner struggles from the field, and it's not enough. They still don't get the win. In a game like tonight, with the addition of Marina Mabry, DeWanna Bonner can struggle scoring, and Marina makes up for that scoring. That's why Marina Mabry has been the biggest trade this WNBA season. You almost get a triple-double from Alyssa Thomas. DeJounte Carrington plays well, 13 points, but DeWanna Bonner struggles from the field. You still keep DeWanna on the floor because she gives you so much else defensively and so much with experience. And you've got Marina, 6 threes on a Connecticut Sun team that struggles to find the basket from beyond the arc. She plays with a chip on her shoulder. She's confident when it comes to offensive scoring, and she's a dog on defense. The addition of Marina and her 20 points tonight is definitely what helped Connecticut.
What else did they do? Because obviously we've seen Napheesa Collier be so good in these playoffs, averaging like north of 40 points. Tonight, just shy of 20. What did they do to make that happen?
Well, they're just physical, because the thing about Napheesa Collier is she is so phenomenal, but her teammates also do a great job finding her, right? They get her on the move. They get her when she's cutting. They get her in perfect position, but it's really hard to execute offensively when you're being pushed out, right? So they're pushing Minnesota away from the three-point line. line. Now it's harder for Minnesota to even run their offense. They're denying the ball reversal, so Minnesota can't get into their action. So you limit Nafisa Collier by actually blowing up all the other positions on the floor, so Minnesota can't execute offensively as a whole.
So what can they do now in game 2 to get the win with another chance at home here?
Yeah, the biggest thing for Minnesota, well, one, they struggled from beyond the arc. I mean, Kayla McBride, Alana Smith, they are very capable three-point shooters. They struggled. Minnesota averaged just under 10 threes a game in the regular season. Minnesota only hit 5 threes in this game. So in a game where you lose by 3, you start to think, oh my goodness, if we just hit one more 3 or even 2 more threes, it would have been a big difference.
You know?
They struggled from beyond the arc, but a lot of that came because they weren't patient offensively. They let Connecticut dictate their offense. So when the defense is dictating the offense, you want it to be the other way around. When you're on offense, you want to beat the defensive rotation. You want the defense to always be catching up to you. That's what Minnesota usually does, but Connecticut's defense has been their kryptonite this season.
All right, so game 2 is on Tuesday, 9:30 Eastern on ESPN2. This was game 2 of this day. What about the other one, Eves? Don't go away because we need you on that.
I'm here.
Well, how about this for a semifinal matchup? A rematch of last year's WNBA Finals. Liberty looking for revenge. Aces on the hunt for a three-peat. And guess who?
Able to be so dominant.
Well, I love the question when you say why, because the one answer that we didn't show, so post-game, Holly Rowe asked Stewie kind of how she was able to get this done or what was motivating her, and she brought up last season. She said she owed those fans something more than what she did last season. You have to remember, in Game 4 of the WNBA Finals against Vegas, it was at home. Breanna Stewart struggled. She was 3 of 17 from the field. She brought that up tonight after she had a 30-piece. It was efficient. They got her on the move. They being the New York Liberty. Well, the Aces got a lot of her as well. But the way she was able to play with the ball on the perimeter, go off of screens, hit mid-range jumpers, she scored from all around the court, and their offense flowed through Breanna Stewart. And she had a chip on her shoulder, and it showed.
Speaking of chips on shoulders, I think Kelsey Plum wears hers very well. Also, you can't ignore Spike. You got to engage him, and no one can do it better than her. Besides all of that and the way that she in some ways carried the Aces, what else stood out to you about the way she performed in this one?
Well, one of the biggest things when it comes to Kelsey Plum is she was decisive and she made really quick decisions. And that's what Kelsey Plum does. She is extremely quick, she is shifty, and she is confident. And what I noticed is New York was loading up defensively. They were sending multiple to the ball. They had a lot of players coming over from the help side, and they were crowding the basketball. And what you have to do when that happens is make quick reads and quick decisions. So as you're watching these highlights, what you don't see is how decisive Kelsey Plum was. And if you're the Las Vegas Aces, all of them need to play that way, because at times they're playing 4-on-5. When they're on offense and New York is on defense, sometimes it's almost like New York has a rover. They just have someone trying to crowd their space. So the Aces have to make quick decisions to score more efficiently the way Kelsey did it, but everybody has to play that way.
So how many times this season have we heard A'ja Wilson talk about her teammates and how important her teammates are to her? We have to fit check this Aces team for how they arrived before this game. Every last player to the T showed up wearing, where is it? There we go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
like every last one.
This was awesome. And actually, what you don't know, they're supporting 2 of their teammates. So this is actually their teammate, Tiffany Hayes. This is Tiffany Hayes' clothing line. So they're wearing one teammate's clothing line, and they're wearing another teammate's jersey. Just
which is
support
like the
all
epitome
around
of what they're trying to do.
Yes.
And then, of course, A'ja showed up doing what she has done so beautifully, just wearing the white T-shirt and the sweats, and like that's her thing, and she's dominant and can make it work. And so please, I have more of that.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Well, the thing is, A'ja, when she wears that white tee, it's like she's locked in. She's not worried about anything else. And then, yeah, all her teammates supporting her. That's how they have to be on the basketball court. A'ja Wilson, efficient, clean, not worried about anything else. And then all her teammates there to provide support. They're going to need that in game 2.
Game 2.